Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What Am I Thinking? A podcast where two sisters share uplifting conversations on fun and sometimes serious topics.
Join us each week by clicking the notification bell and subscribing to our channel. If you enjoy the show, use the share link. It's one of the best ways to expand the conversation. Hello, and welcome back to What Am I Thinking? Today we're going to talk about resolutions. Now, with 2021 behind us, I'm quite sure that most of us, we create those lists, and usually for myself in December, I look back on the year to see how good I was. I don't put myself down when I look at the list and realize that, wow, I did not achieve that this year. I kind of like just sometimes push it over to the next year or cross it off because it was unrealistic in the first place. So we're going to talk about some of the most common things that we see and suggest some things that maybe you haven't thought about that you can work on in 2022. So what do you have over there, Tracy?
So I would say that one of the ones as a clinician that people come in wanting to work on most often at the start of a new year, and it typically starts at the top of my list every year. It's a ongoing resolution to be more health conscious, to be healthier, physically, spiritually, and mentally. Sometimes we focus just on one aspect of it. The big one that most people kind of come up with is losing weight.
I was going to say, keep it real.
Losing weight is typically the one that people come in most often. And so I go through you can't try to change everything all at once. Focus on one aspect. Either it's exercise or the food or, the habits, but trying to change your exercise and your eating habit and your relationship with food all at the same time sets you up for failure.
But the thing I want to ask you is this, and you're right, that usually is at the top of all of our lists every year. I can't speak for anybody else, but I find it strange or funny that it is. That each year, and I'm wondering, in other countries, is it like that? I was watching this, I think it's on Netflix, a series, Emily in Paris. And I remember when I went to Paris, one thing I can universally say,
they weren't overweight.
They were not overweight.
Yeah.
Thin women everywhere. Yeah. And that was one of the lines in the movie.
Yeah.
The series rather. She told her, Americans, we eat too much.
Yeah. And but I also watched that series, but the habit that I also saw that they had a whole lot of over there was smoking.
They do smoke a lot.
They smoke a lot.
They do.
So having not been to Paris, I can't say that is the norm, but at least in the characterization within the show it was. But Americans have an unhealthy relationship with food,
we do.
Whereas some countries have embraced it in a totally different way, and it has not become the crutch for them that it is for us.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I said part of that paradigm shift that has to happen is your relationship with food.
Okay.
It's not just about what you're putting in your body,
right,
because you can regiment yourself to put that in there. But if those triggers happen that cause that unhealthy relationship with food, then you're going to, in moments of crisis, revert back to that old habit. So that's why you can't just address the diet aspect of it without looking at your relationship with food, and then the regimen of what role exercise plays in your life, and all of it. It's not just a one-off.
It goes together.
To be able to have long-term change.
You said something that was key, stressors, because we know that certain hormones in our body also trigger us to eat.
Yeah.
The way our body processes food. So it does work together. And one thing I can say about Europeans, I know in Italians and people in France, they lived very relaxed, slow paced lives.
And one of the things also in that same series where they were like, you can't, it's a law not to work on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
They were admonishing the American character for working on the weekend. And so,
or the 2 and 3 hour lunch break.
Right. So, and the starting the day at 10 o'clock versus 8 o'clock, So it is a different thing culturally as far as the way we do it here. And we have set ourselves up with some bad habits, but it can change. But you've got to be honest with yourself about all the aspects of change that need to take place, and don't take on this Herculean task and try to do it all at once.
Okay.
Go ahead and chisel away, focus on one change at a time. And as I say this to you all, I'm saying it to myself because I too am on that journey, and I'm gonna work on it.
I won't get my jaw wired shut. So let's move on to the next thing.
Right. So outside of people focusing on the health, the second thing that I hear, and it's kind of a combination of finances and career. So let's talk about the finances. Once again, the same way with food, people sometimes have unhealthy relationships when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Because money has been used in a way to compensate, it's been something that if you grew up with lack, that maybe you have caused yourself to overindulge, or you've seen family members live off of credit and credit cards, and that's what you learned, so that's what you did. So a lot of unlearning has to happen with that. But the same way, you've got to address the whole picture of how your relationship with finances got you where you are in order to change it. And so that's a big one that people want to learn. The word that I know a lot of people don't like is budget. So I say put yourself on an expense plan. If you don't like the word budget, a financial calendar, whatever you want to call it. But you've got to know everything you've got coming in, everything that has to go out. And if there's a lack on the side of what's coming in, not covering what's going out, then you got to find a way to fix that. And, that involves either cutting back what's going out, being able to add to what's coming in, getting another job. And there's so many ways to add extra income now. And we all have ways that we can trim our expenses. There's waste. I'm telling you, I don't care who you are, when you do a tracker of yourself for, I don't even say you don't even have to do a month. You can do 2 weeks. You can find places where you can cut back.
That's the important thing right there. And I wanted to interject that point. A lot of people, they can't even acknowledge that it's a problem. And even if you don't think it is a problem, do the tracker.
Right.
Just for 1 week.
And be honest. Don't cheat. Everything. And so that way it works. And for some people, I've had some clients where just telling them to switch to cash instead of swiping that card, and it makes a difference, because when you go ahead and switch to cash, it's something about that tangible money being put out there as opposed to swiping it that gets your attention. And guess what? The cash is going to at some point go down to zero. Whereas the card, you may not see it go into the negative. Right. Especially if you have overdraft protection or things like that. So making changes like that can sometimes be helpful for individuals trying to address the financial part. And then the other part where we talk about the what's coming in, so it goes into that other resolution that people do, is a career change. You want to be happy and love what you do. When you can connect your purpose and what you're passionate about to be able to sustain you and earn a living, that's amazing.
And there's an unfortunate paradigm in our country when it comes to vocations. I think too often our vocation was tied to money and how much will it make you, and that side of what is passionate to you, and going after that job that gives you fulfillment and enjoyment is something, unfortunately, you don't see practiced on a wide scale
Right.
in our country.
Right. But there's another answer to that. So if you chose a vocation that you're not passionate about, but that you're okay with doing that, then you find another outlet for that passion.
Absolutely.
And it's something you can, like for those people who say they wanted to be an actress or an actor, and I say, did you want to be a working actor or actress, or do you just enjoy acting? Because there are community theaters. There are other ways to get that, have that outlet. I mean, blogs have helped so many writers, blogs to be able to have that outlet. But yet, and some of it has turned into a living, but not all. But it's still, you have that outlet. So I tell individuals, there's ways to be able to fulfill that need. You've just got to choose. Are you going to be okay with it being part of what you do, to have that outlet and to have that expression, but you still do something else to earn that living?
I think this ties into one of the other ones we talked about earlier, and that is the self-love or the negative words, and making sure that we're treating ourselves kindly, because too often, if you're in a profession or a vocation that doesn't fulfill you, it can be like a bottomless pit that you've it's quicksand, like quicksand.
Yes.
And you just feel yourself going down, and your verbiage also then turns into this quicksand that pulls you down. Let's just talk a little bit about that, and how instead of letting that be your paradigm, that be what you are professing over yourself for 2022, let's talk about ways to correct how we see ourselves and how we envision ourselves and the words that we are using.
Right. So we can definitely be our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And whether we're beating ourselves up about those other two things that we said normally top the list of resolution, whether it's our weight, some health issue that we have, or the career we've chosen and not having the financial means that we want, we can be our own worst enemy in helping ourselves turn that around, because we beat ourselves up with our own words and our thoughts. And I would tell everybody, it starts with your thought life, because you think it, then you begin to believe it. And when you have that buy-in to this is how I'm thinking, that's going to affect your feelings and emotions, which is in turn going to then affect the way you act and behave. So you got to believe you're the best thing since sliced bread. If you don't believe that about yourself, anybody else trying to tell you that, it's not going to sink in and soak in, because you've got to change what you believe about yourself first.
Now, mind you, this is not for the narcissist.
Oh gosh, the narcissist is not making a resolution for themselves. They're making resolutions for everybody else around them. So the narcissist doesn't even need a resolution. They're perfect. So it's all the people in their world that they need to fix.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, so the things that you tell yourself, and guess what? Unfortunately, a lot of the things we believe about ourselves come from things that we have been told by people who are supposed to be the loved ones in our lives.
Yeah.
And parents don't get a guide. There's books you can buy now. Not all of them are created equally in what they're telling you about how to raise your children. But typically parents do either what they saw their parents do, or they go to the opposite end of the spectrum and try to be the total opposite, when most times you probably need to land somewhere in the middle. I did this poem for our mother on, can't remember what, I think it might have been her 78th birthday, where it says, you drew from what you knew. And she did. And she definitely tried to improve upon the conditions under which she was raised to do for her children, but she was not perfect at it. And so I think there's a line that says, I embraced those things that were positive and uplifting, and I eliminated those things that were unhealthy. And so even in my journey, I'm trying to improve upon what she did, and I know I'm not being perfect at it. And I try to self-correct on a regular basis, you know, by having conversations with my son to make sure I'm not sending any of those negative messages unintentionally.
Right.
The parents are not doing, well, not all. Some are, because we do have some sick people out there that don't know that they need some mental health help themselves. But you've got to realize it doesn't just start once you become an adult that you start thinking badly of yourself. Unfortunately, a lot of it starts in your younger years, and you take that into your adulthood. Some people are more resilient than others, and they can be dismissive of it and kind of counter it out the gate and not have that buy-in. But not everybody is. So it's a journey, a different journey for each person. But I tell you, do that self-examination, put that mirror up, love yourself first and foremost, and be honest on the things you need to work on about the lies you have allowed yourself to believe. And guess what? It is okay to talk to a counselor. It is okay to go and see a mental health professional to help you on this journey of self-love. You did not get here overnight. It's not going to change overnight. So don't feel as if you're going to be able to fix it all on your own. It's wisdom to know when you need professional help. That's wisdom, not weakness.
Right.
So on that journey of getting rid of that negative self-talk, if you need to speak with a therapist or a counselor, please do that. If you're employed, I tell you to start with your employee assistance program, because most of them start with free sessions, whether it's 3, 5, 10, whatever it is. Take advantage of that and get that help that you need. What would you say would be another area where people, I think you mentioned something about hobbies.
Yes. And this one almost ties back into career changes.
It definitely
and
does.
If you're not finding your gratification or enjoyment in your job, you're not there 24/7.
Right.
There are plenty of hours in the day to pick up a hobby or do something. And the internet is just filled with lists. If you feel you're sitting there and you can't even think of anything, go on the internet, Google something, Yahoo, whatever. Find a list. I will say you want it to be something that is going to feed that creative side of you, because that's usually where we find our passion. Or it even could be volunteering somewhere. Sometimes when we help someone else, a lot of positive things come from that as well. So,
well, you know, if you think about the nonprofit work that we have done, when we got grant funding to do things, we typically hired from our volunteer pool first. So I always tell people, the way somebody's going to look at it, if you're willing to do this for free and it's something that you're passionate about, the organizations, when they have an opportunity to pay someone, they're going to look to those volunteers first to see, you know, not everybody is volunteering because they can afford to do it. They're doing it because it's fulfilling for them. And if they could get paid to do it, they would. Right. So that's why I always would go to that volunteer. And guess what? Volunteer experience is still experience.
It's experience.
So I tell individuals, if it's something you want to do, if it's a career path you're trying to get into, start out volunteering in it, because guess what? You can put that on your resume. You can get a letter of recommendation from that entity to say, this person was amazing at it, and if I had the budget to hire them, I would have. So there is no downside in volunteering. There really isn't. And unpaid internships matter. Great if you can get a paid one, but unpaid internships also give you experience. So I don't let people off the hook to say, I don't have experience doing it. I don't. you find time to do the things that matter to you.
Absolutely.
And if you're trying to make a career change, if you're trying to get your foot in the door somewhere, volunteering, doing an unpaid internship, finding a way to learn that way is also very, very helpful. So be open to that.
And just remember also the first opportunity, it might not be a good fit, and that's okay. Don't stop there.
Exactly.
If you're that type of person that wants to give back, volunteering might be that thing for you.
And sometimes it helps you learn what you don't want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you think this is the path you want to take, you don't want to get hired somewhere and work 1 month and then be like, oh, this sucks, and you got all these jumping around on your resume, because it's a volunteer experience. You don't have to put it down on your resume, but it helps you to on that journey. So I encourage parents to have their kids volunteering in the vocations that they think they want to do. I always use the experience from Julian when it came to the city planner. And how we connected him with that city planner, and he was like, no, that is not
it wasn't what he wanted to do.
And he found his path was marketing, and he's amazing at it. But I encourage parents, go ahead and try to connect them when they're teens so that they can figure out, yes, this is it, or no, this is not. And there's no downside to volunteering ever.
Okay.
It's always
What's
something
next
to
on
learn.
our list there?
So we talked about having a plan. Companies and organizations have to have strategic plans. So why not have a strategic plan for your life? So putting together a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, so that you can be more goal-oriented. That's sometimes what people are resolving to do to accomplish things. And one of the ways to do that is to put a plan in place.
And I know for some people, the idea of just figuring out what they're going to wear the next day is daunting enough. But 5-year plans are not things that are written in stone.
Right.
They're fluid. It's just to give you
an idea.
An idea.
An outline. An outline for your life. And like I said, if we're going to do these things for projects at work, isn't your life even that more important that you need to plan it out and to know what you're going to do? I'm very for being able to, sometimes putting it down helps. Some other things that's good to do is to focus on educating yourself on topics more, being more well-read, and learning how to go green. As we can see, we know climate change is real, and anything you can do, so that's a resolution that people have, is to go green. And lastly, focusing on healthy relationships. I'm a great proponent on relationships and making sure that you are examining those relationships that are positive and beneficial and those that are negative. So also do a little self-examination on who's adding to your life, who's draining on your life, and who you would like to bring in to make your life more fulfilling. And remember, people don't complete your life. They come along and complement it. You've got to be complete in and of yourself, and those around you are just adding to it. Don't look for someone to fill a hole. You've got to fill that hole by being complete in and of yourself.
So the takeaway for 2022 and resolutions, value yourself. Value yourself, the things that you pour into yourself, the people that are around you. You are important. Take the time to make that list. Take the time to make change.
And be honest with yourself as you're making the list. When you lie to yourself, you're lying to one of the most important people in your life. And you're not going to get those results that you want if you're not being truthful. So thank you for listening to What Am I Thinking? And we look forward to you tuning in next week.